Hello, hello.
Hello,
Hello, is this Joy?
Hi.
this is Joy.
Hey, Joy, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I am doing good.
Good.
Hi, Eric and Joy. We can hear you, so you're good for your audio.
Perfect.
We see a phone number ending in 45.
Yes, Paul.
Paul, Mayor Creighton?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We gotcha. And I see a Samsung. It says has joined. Is that you as well, Paul? Or is that someone else?
What was that?
I see another device that's just a Samsung. Are
Nope.
you, that's not
Nope,
you?
just on my-
Okay. So let's unmute the Samsung, and it's muted on your end. Just want to make sure that's not one of our board members. And Director Silvera, we see you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
You're breaking up
Can
a
you hear
little
me?
bit, but we can hear you. Yes, there you are. Stacy, can we do a audio check for you?
Check, check, check.
There you go. We got you. And Director McDaniel. He might have stepped away for a minute. Director McDaniel, if you can hear us, just wanted to do an
There we go.
audio check
Sorry
for
about
you.
that.
There. Oh,
Yep.
good. We gotcha.
Great.
Got a phone number ending in 94 that just joined.
This is Pat at City Augustine.
Very good. We've got you. You can mute on your end when you need to, but you are unmuted on our end.
Okay.
And Emily, we are going to unmute you here so we can do a audio check for you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Director McDaniel, we did not receive any public comments today for any items on the agenda, just to let you know.
Thank you. Hold on, I'm working on some housekeeping here in my own office, trying to find a pin. How are we looking? Is there a lot of folks on the phone?
We have Director Creighton, yourself, Director Nagy from Gustine, Director Silvera right now.
Awesome, thank you. Students and
Sorry, what was that?
And Mary Michael, how was my sound? Somebody said it was sounding a little garbly.
It was, but right now it sounds good.
Okay, good. All right. Is there a reason why we don't do video on ours?
It's just a safety precaution. It's because of people that can hijack Zoom meetings.
Oh, there you go. That's true. I've heard about some of the hijacks.
Yeah, the webinar function just allows us to maintain a little bit more order from our end.
Right. Okay, so I'll be looking to you for the raised hands and stuff, Mary Michael.
Sounds good. We still, we have I think that's Matt, the number at the top, 3153. Matt, can we do a check on you?
Hi, yeah, this is Matt.
Perfect, thank you. Director Espinoza, we're unmuting you. Can we do a audio check for you?
Yeah, you there?
There, we can hear you now. Director Aguilar, can we do an audio check for you?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect, thank you.
Is there a closed session agenda? I didn't see one. Mary Michael,
Sorry, what was that?
is there a closed session agenda?
It is on,
For three, just that.
it's on,
Three.
yeah, page 3, yep.
Okay. Do we have enough people to start the meeting?
I see Director Villalta. Can we do an audio check for you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. So we have, that I can see, Director McDaniel, Creighton, Aguilar, Espinoza, Nagy, for Oliveira, Silvera, and Villalta. Joy is also on the line, so she can help with quorum. We also have a phone number that just joined that ends in 95.
I think it might be me, Mary Michael. This is Alex.
Oh, hi, Alex. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Joy, do we have a quorum?
At this
At this
time,
point?
yes, but I would still need to do an official roll call.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we get started. So I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the MCAG Governing Board.
Are we still here? Did I get kicked off?
Hello?
This is Stacy. I can still hear everybody.
Was that Scott Silvera?
Yes, it was.
Should we do an audio check with him again?
He looks like he dropped off now, so maybe he's having some connection issues, perhaps. We'll keep an eye out for him and unmute him when he pops back on. We also see Director Murphy has joined.
Good afternoon.
We can hear you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The regular meeting of the MCAG Governing Board. Today is Thursday, June 18th, 2020. Scott, can you hear us? And at this time, I will open it up for public comment. I know we had no public comment sent in ahead of time, but if there's anybody from the public on the line, this is your opportunity to speak on anything before this board.
You gonna do a roll call first? Make sure we have a quorum.
Yes, you're right. Let's
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
I'll do roll call. Roll call. Director Aguilar,
That's item number 4. Sorry.
Director Creighton,
Here.
Director Espinoza,
Here.
Director Hoag, Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Here.
Director Nagy, Director Nagy, Director Pereira, Director Silvera,
Present.
Director Villalta,
Here.
and Chair McDaniel.
Present.
Yes, there is a quorum.
Okay, now we'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, which is closed session, which is conference with legal counsel and anticipated litigation. Cal Government Code 54956-9 D2. It's only one matter.
This is Emily Hayden.
Hi, Emily.
So the facts and circumstances giving rise to potential litigation are the meet and confer letter that was received from the City of Merced on behalf of the cities of Merced, Atwater, and Los Banos. So we could adjourn into the closed session if that's the desire of the board, or discuss that before adjourning into closed session.
Is there further discussion?
Director Silvera has his hand raised.
Director Silvera, you're on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, what is our step forward here? I just don't want this to just keep being the perpetual closed session that we never go into. I'm ready to ask your advice on how we're supposed to proceed forward, so that we don't fall back into the same position that we were in last month with not ended up going in closed session.
Thank
So
you,
do you
Director.
have
Is that directed to the council?
that's directed to council?
Thank you.
Okay. So the board has a couple options here that I can see, and there may be other options that I don't see, or that you guys may have other suggestions that you may have. But because the meet and confer letter is a request to meet and confer and contains the potential for arbitration should there not be a successful conclusion to the meet and confer, the representatives from the cities of Merced, Atwater, and Los Banos are in an adverse position to MCAG because they are representatives from the potential adverse parties in this litigation. So they could voluntarily recuse themselves from any closed session discussion of this item. I don't know if they're willing to do that. They were not last time. As Director Murphy suggested at the last meeting, the board could potentially vote to exclude them from a closed session. The express purpose of the litigation exemption to the open and public meeting requirement is to allow the board to discuss issues related to potential litigation in a forum that would not prejudice the agency's position in that litigation. That purpose is likely defeated if representatives from adverse parties are present in the closed session or if the conversation takes place in open session. We can discuss options in closed session related to what I'm discussing now, essentially, but our ability to discuss specifics or any type of litigation strategy will be hampered. If the board did vote to exclude the directors, that option does carry risks. There is the possibility that the Cities of Merced, Atwater, and Los Banos could sue, could challenge the action in court. There's no clear legal answer to whether there is no decision that I've been able to find that offers a direct answer on this particular issue. But given that the presence of adverse parties and potential litigation would impede our ability to discuss this matter, it's an option that the board may want to consider. The board could also direct me to meet and confer without giving more specific direction. The issue with that is that we could end up back here next month with another item for a closed session, because I would not have any authority to do anything other than talk to the council for the cities and bring it back to the board. And finally, the board could decide not to meet and confer at all. However, the JPA agreement does provide that the parties shall make good faith effort to meet and confer before commencing arbitration. And the potential result of not meeting and conferring is that we go straight to arbitration. In which case, again, we end up back in this position with the need to go into closed session. So.
Thank you, council. And that would not be a policy discussion that we're having. It's actually only a conversation regarding the anticipated litigation.
That's correct.
Chair McDaniels?
Yes.
Yes, it seems like the simplest solution is that we just vote to meet and confer and assign a committee along with the attorney and the 3 representative cities, and let's be done with this. I mean, let's just meet and confer. Let's talk. I mean, it can't hurt anything, and then we can come back with a recommendation.
Right. And the problem, and I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that. But we voted on this 2 different times in open session, and it's failed. So you guys are taking this third option of the meeting and conferring, which we've discussed this numerous times in open session. It's come to a vote, and it's times. So I think we need to be able to move into closed session, the folks who aren't privy to the party, and have this discussion so we can hear all our options. We can put together an option to come back.
Yeah, Chair McDaniel, this is Director Murphy.
Yes, Murphy.
If the board wants to vote to proceed into closed session without the 3 cities, I would respect that and would hop off the call so that discussion can occur.
Thank you, Director Murphy.
Do you have a quorum with if we leave? Chair McDaniels?
No, we don't.
You don't have a quorum if those 3 directors recuse themselves. However, I don't believe there would be a specific vote or an action taken by the board. It would be a conversation with legal counsel. So you wouldn't necessarily need a quorum in closed session without those 3 directors.
But can any direction be given without a quorum?
Direction could be given because direction is not formal action.
Because I don't want to be back here, as Scott said, in the same position next month because of a technicality, because if we decide to hop off this call, that all of a sudden we're told, well, we can't do anything because we don't have a quorum. I mean, I want something to come out of this.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, I understand that. And we could have a conversation in closed session without a quorum. There's no specific action to be taken today in closed session regardless. So
it would just be direction.
Right.
I got my hand up. Are we doing that, or are we just going to ask to get the chair's attention? Because if that's the case, then Mr. Chair, I'm ready to make a motion. This is Director Silvera.
Okay.
if there is no further discussion, Chair, I would make a motion that we move into closed session and asking the cities of Las Vegas, Merced, and Atwater to recuse themselves from going into that closed section so that we can move this process along.
Can I say, you asked that they be excluded. We're not, that's what it would be.
Yeah, Scott, be more specific. It's excluded. They're not going to recuse.
Okay, then I'll correct that as is to be asked that those three be excluded.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I will second the motion as the chair. Mary Michael, can you call for the vote?
Can I ask a question? The options here for the three, for everyone is to vote in favor, vote against, or abstain, right? If we abstain,
it's a no vote. Or it's either way. It's neither way.
It's neither?
It's neither, yeah.
Okay, I'll plan to abstain, but okay.
Thanks, Director Murphy. Can we call for the vote, Mary Michael?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Abstain.
Director Espinoza,
I abstain.
Director Hoag, Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Abstain.
Director Nagy, Director Pereira, Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta,
Abstain.
Chair McDaniel.
Yes. So motion passes with 3 yeses, 0 noes, and 4 abstentions. Yes, Emily?
There a vote of 6 is required for a quorum for any action taken by MCAG.
So the motion failed. So Chair, I just make a motion that we table this item to 3 months from now. We can all think about it even more and longer.
Yeah, I'm very much opposed to that.
So am I. We're not going to keep carrying this on.
That's all you gotta do. You want to abstain from the vote from doing exactly what you asked for. So it killed the motion. So you can't. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to say that you guys are being genuine in this when you've obviously, in my opinion, of all three talked and you all decided to abstain from the vote. So now the vote dies. So we can't go into closed session. So we can't give you what you're asking for. We can't take the next step because the motion failed. So
look, it's yeah. Through the chair, it's not our fault that others didn't show up to this meeting.
You're right.
There's 3 of us out of 11.
You're right, Director Murphy.
So I'll see you guys all at 3 o'clock. Thank you.
You could still voluntarily recuse yourself, so.
So let me do this. I'm not gonna vote to recuse myself, but I will drop off the call without voting, and maybe Atwater and Las Vegas will do the same thing. And if you guys want to proceed, you can. But I'll just drop off without voting on another motion. Hopefully that's helpful.
Atwater as well.
And Las Vegas.
Okay.
Much appreciated. Thank you guys for your
I'll drop off. See ya. Bye.
Okay, do we come back at 3 and this
Yes.
number? Chair?
Yes, 3 o'clock at the same number.
Yeah, the same Zoom, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm dropping off now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I know that this is Emily, there are staff members in the room. Stacy could distribute a phone number for directors to call into, or
Can we do that?
or we could, or if, I don't know if it's possible, Mary
We can
Michael.
give you
or
direction, right? Because we don't have
Christina.
enough votes.
You can give direction, you just can't take a formal action.
Okay. So let's have her distribute out the number so we can chat about this, please.
Okay, I believe she's doing that now.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I'll do that right now.
And is it going to be an email?
Yes, it'll be an email, and it'll be the usual email that I have that I send out for everyone else. So if you need it in a different way, let me know. And Pat, I'll use both of the email addresses that I have on file for you.
Okay, thank you.
And just to confirm, the email's been sent, so it should be in your inbox. If not, please let me know. I'll stay on this call just in case.
Screen right now for your audio. And we have, oh, Director Pereira, we have unmuted you on our end.
Just so you know, Mary Michael, the number isn't on the screen. It still shows closed session.
Oh, we're fixing that right now. Thank you. Director Pereira, can we do an audio check for you? Director Pereira, you are unmuted on our end. We see you have your hand up, but we cannot hear you.
Hello?
There
Can
you
you hear
are.
me now?
We've got you. Yes.
All right.
Oh, we see you're on the, you called in. Gotcha.
I called in. I don't have a microphone on my computer, so that's why I'm
that's
not talking.
Oh, totally fine. So we've got you now. Thank you so much. I saw Eric Zetz join us. Can we do an audio check for you?
Good afternoon.
We can hear you. Thank you. We have a phone number ending in 30 that just joined. Is that a board member?
Yes, that's
What about 7? Sorry, what was that?
This is Mike
Oh,
Murphy.
Mike Murphy. Thank you. And we have a phone number ending in 734.
Good afternoon. This is Grace Magsayo from Caltrans District 10, representing Dan McElhaney.
Thank you, Grace. We have a phone number ending in 494. Is that a board member?
Yes, this is Pat Nagy from Gustine.
Hi, Pat. We've got you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm here.
Phone number. Who's that?
April.
This is April. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We've got you. We saw the phone number. Thank you so much.
Okay, good.
So just make sure that your sound on your computer or iPad or whatever is turned off. So you're just doing the audio through your phone, just
Right.
so we won't
Got
get
it.
feedback. Perfect.
Okay.
If there are any other board members that have joined and we haven't done an audio check with you, go ahead and just raise your hand and we'll find you. We think we have most everyone on, Director McDaniel.
Okay, perfect. So we're just coming back from closed session, and I will report out that staff was given direction. And now it's
Also, sorry, Director McDaniel, this is Emily
Yes.
Eden. For purposes of the minutes, I just would like to have it noted that the people present, the directors present in closed session were Directors McDaniel, Silvera, Pereira, Espinoza, Aguilar, and Hoag.
Thank you.
Director McDaniels?
Yes.
Yes, I have a statement before we go into the regular meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And it is, hang on, let me find it. Okay. Prior to going into closed session at today's meeting of the MCAG Governing Board at 2 p.m., Director Villalta asked for a meet and confer process with assigned members. He was denied access to that request by the chair. I am now requesting that we go directly to arbitration. And I would like that as part of the minutes of this process, please.
Okay. At this time, then we'll start the regular meeting of the MCAG, and we'll move on. Let's go ahead and do a roll call again. Item number 4.
Director Aguilar,
Present.
Director Creighton,
Here.
Director Espinoza,
Present.
Director Hoag,
Here.
Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Here.
Director Nagy,
Here.
Director Pereira,
Here.
Director Silvera,
Here.
Director Villalta,
Here.
Chair McDaniel.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Let's move on to item number 5, approval of the agenda. This is an action item.
Move to approve by Murphy.
Seconded by Pereira.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there further discussion on this item? If not, let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and move on to item 6. I had already reported from closed session. So let's go ahead and move on to item number 7, which is public comment. Do we have any public comment? I know nobody sent in, but anybody from the public on at this time? This is your opportunity to speak before this board.
We see no hands raised.
Thank you very much, Mary Michael. Then we'll go ahead and move on to item number 8, which is the minutes. This is an action item.
Chair, this is Director Silvera, motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second by Aguilar.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Thank you, Joy. Then we'll moving right along. We'll go to item number 9, election of chair, vice chair for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. This is an action item. Stacy, I will turn it over to you.
Sorry, I was muted while I was trying to share my screen. You should be seeing now the chair rotation schedule that is included in your board packet. So this item, every June, the MCAG governing board elects a chairperson and a vice chairperson to serve for a 1-year term that coincides with the fiscal year, so starting July 1 through June 30. The agency's governing policies require that the chair and the vice chair alternate between a member of the County Board of Supervisors and a representative from one of the 6-member city agencies. The policies also require that the chairperson candidate to have served a year on the governing board prior to his or her chairmanship. And in 2017, the board adopted a chair rotation schedule that was based on the requirements, so it's consistent with what the agency's governing policies require, but also took into consideration the history of the chairmanship and particularly the interest of trying to keep track of when jurisdictions held a position and kind of keeping in mind what that order might look like. So according to the board approved chair rotation schedule, which is what's up on the screen, the city of Atwater is next in line for the chairmanship, with a director from the county of Merced serving as the vice chair. Director Creighton has served on the governing board for more than a year, which makes him eligible, an eligible candidate for chair. And in terms of the vice chairmanship, the agency's governing policies include, the agency's governing policies, including the chair rotation schedule, doesn't specify any order by district or otherwise that would provide guidance on the selection of a representative from the county of Merced. So therefore, the specific nomination of a vice chairperson from the county of Merced would need to be made by the maker of a motion for this item. So as you can see in your chair rotation schedule for the year of 2020, 2021, it's the city of Atwater. And the current representative for the city of Atwater, it's Director Creighton. So at this time, the request is for the board to elect a chairperson and a vice chairperson for a 1-year term commencing July 1, 2020.
Motion to approve Creighton as chair.
Second. Espinoza.
Villalta made the motion.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is Director Silvera. I just want for a point of clarification. Are we using the hand raising or not using the hand raising? Because I've had my hand raised for quite a while now and I haven't been called on. So if we're not going to use it, then I'll continue to just try to get your attention when I want to talk.
Okay, from here on, yeah, we're going to do it. And so, Mary Michael, I'm asking you to monitor that on my behalf because I don't I can't see who's raising their hand.
That's good.
So moving forward, we'll be doing the hand raising.
Okay, and then my question is it so that I understand within our bylaws about having one versus the other, or just one vice versa. So if the city rep is the chair, it has to be a county rep as the vice chair, and vice versa. The county chair, if it was the chair, the city rep would be. And these policies that have been put in place, are they binding or are they a suggestion?
I think that would go to council.
It's a policy that was adopted by the board. You can deviate from it, but it is a policy that was adopted by the board.
By a board that was sitting when I wasn't here.
Yes.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Let's call for the vote.
I see.
Oh, you have hand raised? Mary Michael,
I'm sorry, what was that?
did you
No, I see no other hands raised.
Okay, then let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yeah.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
No.
Director Pereira,
No.
Director Silvera,
No.
Chair McDaniel, I'm sorry, Director Villalta,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Now I'm looking for a nomination for vice chair.
Director Murphy has his hand raised, and then Director Silvera.
Okay, Director Murphy?
I just want to understand, was there, I didn't, maybe I missed part of what was going on there, but Atwater's next in the rotation. Why was that controversial?
Do they need to explain their no vote?
Well, they don't have to, but I mean, it'd be nice for the public to know, and I'd certainly like to know.
Does anybody want to speak up on that matter?
I have my hand raised.
Okay, Mr. Silvera?
Yeah, the process was set up before I was here, and I don't necessarily like the process. It's kind of a moot point. Why bother even putting this up for a nomination in a second? If the process has already been set out, then it should just automatically kick over and we shouldn't have to take a vote on it. It's not directed at Atwater or any one person. It's directed at the process. It's kind of a waste of time to, if it's already predetermined who's going to sit in the spot, you might as well just do it with a non-ceremonial where you don't have to take a vote on it.
Thank you, Mr. Silvera.
Director Villalta, and then Director Espinoza.
Okay, Director Villalta?
Yes, I was the initiator of this process years ago because we have overbearing members and they just wanted to limit the chairmanship to a few people. And so I wanted a process that was fair. And at that time, the rest of the members agreed with me because it wasn't fair. So we put this process in place to make sure that there weren't overbearing members and that we'd never go through this again.
Thank you, Director Villalta. Director Espinoza?
Yeah, again, like Director Villalta said, with Director Villalta and myself, I know that Director Silvera wasn't on board yet, but it was for a reason. You know, Livingston, I was, as Mayor of Livingston, I was on the board of MCAG as well. And then, I got on the board of supervisors, and I wasn't given the chance to be the next up on as chairman of the board. Livingston had not been chairman of the board for 20 years. So we thought it was unfair. And that's why you see the names of Dieter Kelsey on there, and then mine twice as vice chair in the past. And then eventually it went back to Alex McCabe of Livingston, which was unfair. And that's why we decided to have have it a certain way, the rotation. So I know that some members were not here, but the rotation is fair, because some cities got to be chair and vice chair for 2 consecutive times, or maybe 3, while Livingston was not a chair for 20 years or plus years. So that's why this process was picked, and I agree with the process. On the Board of Supervisors, it rotates around, I imagine, and so as well as cities, there's different council members, and mayors can rotate, and so not one person can be on there as saying, but Deidre Kelsey was on there twice when the bylaws say no one person can be consecutive on there, and she got to be the chance on there, as well as myself as vice chair. So hopefully that doesn't occur again, and then this is, I think, a more fair process. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Director Nagy has his hand raised.
Yes, I kind of in the same frame of mind as Director Silvera. If it's an automatic moving up from vice chair to chair, then that's fine. But then that shouldn't call for a vote. It should just be automatic, and then we should just elect a vice chair every year. That's all I have.
So thank you, Director Nagy. So now we are looking for a motion for vice chair.
Director Silvera has his hand raised.
Director Silvera, you have the floor.
Chair, I nominate Director Pereira.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Pereira. Is there further discussion about this nomination? Seeing none, I'll close the nominations and we'll call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes, I agree.
Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item number 10, our Caltrans report. And I think we have Grace here with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, once again. I'm happy to be here today representing Dan McElhaney in District 10. First of all, I'd like to extend congratulations to Merced County for being awarded a Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant for the Franklin Beechwood Interconnectivity Plan for $135,000. Hilda Sousa and Tom Dumas of our planning division look forward to working with you or with the county staff on this exciting new project. So congratulations. Dan had left me a few notes to highlight with you all today. So I'd like to go ahead and provide you an update on various things happening in Merced County. First one is the Pioneer Road Extension Project. That project has been initiated, and once a cooperative agreement is agreed upon and executed by both parties, the project development team will start working to refine the project's purpose and need and developing connection alternatives to State Route 152. So stay tuned for that one. I anticipate that the work will start to really get going in the next couple of months. The Route 152 Los Banos Safety Task Force met on May 20 to continue discussion on near-term and long-term strategies to improve highway safety and operations along the route. through town. As part of the efforts in that task force, a CMAQ application was submitted by MCAG to help fund the effort to synchronize all 14 traffic signals on the corridor. And one of the long-term improvements, or a few of the long-term improvements that are being considered for the route are medians, channelizers, signing, and limiting street parking. And all of these will be the focus of a working group in the next few months. And these types of improvements will take a little while through the study and assessment phase, and we'll hopefully be providing more updates on the progress in the next few months. State Route 152 and 11th Street project. That project is proposing to install a signal at that intersection. The project design is progressing pretty well. We are anticipating to begin construction and end construction all in 2021. So look out for that project to be out to begin in, I would say, early 2021. State Route 99 pavement rehabilitation project in Atwater is also on track to be completed in 2022. We began construction on that project just a few weeks ago, I believe, and so it's going well, and we anticipate that it will take a couple of seasons to complete. The northbound Livingston State Route 99 widening project is also underway. Currently, our construction crews are working on the sound wall foundations, and the actual widening work on State Route 99 is scheduled for later in the summer. So you won't actually probably see a lot of work on the highway, on the route itself for now, until maybe another 4 to 6 weeks later. State Route 165, the Hillmar School Safety Task Force work has also been ongoing. Caltrans staff is currently finalizing design details for the Hawk signal system on Echo Street and 165. We're currently working with the school district to secure a temporary construction easement in order to build the Hawk system. And at Campbell Street, just the next intersection over, that location requires right-of-way acquisition and utility relocation. The project is a little bit more complex than the one on Echo Street. The crosswalk also has to be relocated away from the current high school driveway. And so with these complications, the construction schedule is a little further out than the one on Echo Street. And at State Route 165 in Gear Avenue, we've initiated a capital project under our safety program. The project initiation document, which will identify the scope and program funding for the next phases, is targeted to be completed in August. It will most likely be amended into the current 2020 SHOP, which means that we will be able to immediately start on the P&ED phase, or the environmental phase of the project. And over in Planada, we have been working with Supervisor Espinoza, MCAG staff, and others towards finding solutions to address the community concerns at the intersection of State Route 140 and Plainsburg. A project has been initiated to help implement potential solutions. And that's, again, in its initiation phase, and we hope to report more progress in the next few months. And then on our maintenance side, our crews have actually started to switch back to performing work on the state highway at nighttime. For the past couple of months, we've been able to work during the day. Our crews have been able to do paving, crack sealing efforts during the day because traffic volumes were really low. But with the economy opening back up, we're starting to see traffic volumes starting to increase. So it is a lot safer for our crews to work at night these days because the traffic is a lot less than during the daytime. And just one more bit, Caltrans District 10 Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment has been completed. The results of the assessment will be used to guide analysis of at-risk assets and develop an adaptation plan. If anyone's interested in what that document looks like, I'd be happy to share that with you. I also have several updates on several traffic investigation reports. I can go over them if you'd like. There's at least 10, or I think there's at least 10 traffic investigation reports. I can go over every one of them, or if you'd like, I can there's a specific location you're interested about, you could let me know. And also before I close, well, if you have any specific traffic investigation reports, I'd be happy to report on them. But before I close, I'd also like to add that that Ken Baxter, who I'm pretty sure everyone knows, our Deputy District Director for Transportation Planning has announced his retirement. His last day of working for the state will be the end of this month on June 30. Ken has spent the last 41 years and I believe 4 months, he said, working in state government. So he is looking forward to starting a new phase in his life and really looks back to fond memories of working all over the state in various agencies and of course most recently in Caltrans District 10. So I'd like to make sure that we let you know that he will be leaving us and he will be sorely missed because these are some big shoes to fill with Ken and his background and his history of the district and just his immense knowledge of transportation. So with that, I'd like to see if there's any questions or, like I said, the traffic investigation reports. Yes.
This is the Chairman McDaniel. Those investigation reports, is there any way you could share those with staff and they could distribute it out to the board?
Yes, I will work, and actually I'll work with Dan because I believe he wanted to send over a letter to the board.
Okay.
Going over in detail everything that I talked about and also the traffic investigation reports and our updates to them.
Fantastic. That'd be perfect. Mary Michael, are there any raised hands?
Director Espinoza?
Director Espinoza.
Yeah, thank you very much. I didn't hear your name. What was your name again?
Grace Magsayo. Yes.
Again?
Grace Magsayo.
Oh, hi, Grace. Thank you very much. Appreciate your support and your help with MCAG as well. You know, I want to stress again that I would like to, I'm seeking still more support on the Highway 140 at Plainsburg, the signal lighting there. You know, we've been in talks for years, 2-3 years, and there's no progress. It seems. I know that Dan McEhenny came over, and you know, like I said, he's been good at coming to our meetings, but I still was stressed. And I know with the pandemic, we haven't had a chance to get together. But I stress, please, if you can. I sent an email about 2-3 weeks ago, and you responded, but I seek more progress in the campaign for the lighting, the signal lighting there. And also too, if you can write down, there's a need for a Hawk system, not there, but also down the street on Sutter at Highway 140, where there's a pharmacy there. There's a lot of crossings there to the restaurant on the north side of Highway 140, which is Carnitas del Sol, the restaurant. The residents keep asking for a crossing there because it's very dangerous as people from Mariposa come down flying through there, and there's no speed limit, I think, posted. If it is, it's probably 55, which that's probably pretty fast coming into town. So if you can relate that, please, to Dan McEhenny, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, and Director Espinoza, I wanted to add a little bit on the State Route 140 and Plainsburg project. I do have a note from the team that they actually kicked off what we call the PID, the project initiation document phase of the project. They kicked that effort off yesterday. So there is progress, and typically these PIDs take several months to complete, but I would like to make sure that I'm going to make sure that MCAG staff are included in our project development team meetings so they can also provide you appropriate progress reports in addition to what we report to the board.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Director
There are no more
Espinoza.
hands
Mary
raised.
Michael, no more hands? Okay,
No.
well, thank you very much,
No.
Grace. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 11, which is information and discussion only. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding item 11A through F?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and move on to item number 12, the consent agenda. This is an action item.
Director Silvera?
Yes, Director Silvera, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Thank you. So I have a motion,
Espinoza, second.
and now I have a second. Is there further discussion regarding this consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag.
Yes.
Thank you. Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 13, Transportation Planning and Measure V update. This is an information item only. Matt Fell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just wanted to give you two updates. One is on the congestion mitigation air quality. That's federal funding program to projects nominated by the local jurisdictions that help improve the air. We did, the board authorized a call for projects in April, and we got 10 applications. And the CMAQ committee that evaluates those applications met yesterday, and they have made a recommendation for programming that will come back to the board next month in July for consideration. And they are recommending that all 10 of those projects receive funding, some for the whole amount and some for the PE to get started. So you'll see that item next month. And then the other is on the West Side commuter bus study. So that is underway. The consultants held a kickoff meeting with the jurisdictions, and they are currently gathering data. They have access to a lot of the streetlight data on the mobile phone anonymized data that tells where people are going and all that kind of stuff. So they're using some big data to do their analysis of the market for potential service, and then they're also looking at options for the outreach. So, in the current environment, they were already planning on doing some virtual and online platforms. So they're honing their focus on how they're going to do that, and there will be, some potential in-person options as well. But they're probably looking more towards some online connections using some of the existing platforms. And if you had any questions about anything in planning or programming, I could answer those for you.
Thank you, Matt.
Director Villalta has his hand raised.
Okay, Director Villalta, you have the floor.
Hi, Matt, can you tell me the possible completion date of the West Side commuter study, what we're looking at? I mean, not an exact date, just possible.
Yeah, sure. It's we're looking at the consultant says that they can probably wrap it up by the end of the year. So by early next year is when we're anticipating it being complete.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Villalta. Are there any other hands raised?
No.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 14, Local Partnership Program and Regional Surface Transportation Program Exchange. This is an action item. Matt Fell, you still have the floor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I will go ahead and share my screen because I want to put the attachments on the screen. Actually, I think I'll just go back to this for now. Okay, so this is an action item. It proposes a one-time, one-for-one exchange of Regional Surface Transportation Program, or RSTP funds, with Local Partnership Program, LPP funds. And this proposal was developed working with the Technical Review Board. And it's similar to some exchanges that have been done in the past for mutual benefit. And the idea here is regional benefit because it would expedite getting the LPP funds out. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about RSTP and LPP and then how this exchange would work. So most importantly is that RSTP and LPP, they have the same broad eligibility, which includes road maintenance. So they're both sources are eligible for the gamut of things that might be done. The main difference is LPP is SB1 money that goes through the state process, and it has a 50% match. It's money that MCAG gets because we're self-help, and so typically LPP is going to get matched with Measure V measure funds. That's how it works in other counties that get LPP. They're typically matching it with measure money. RSTP starts as federal funds, and then the state washes it for us. And so the practice at MCAG has been to distribute the RSTP by formula. And there is an attachment that shows how that works. And I can go into that if anybody wants to see how that works. And I put that in there to show how we do that every year. This item, that RSTP comes before the board for the distribution. And so that's what we would normally do. And then LPP, I have to step back just a little bit in time and just briefly talk about the regional transportation impact fee termination. So when that happened, the RTIF funds were to be distributed back out to the jurisdictions that had collected the fees, but some of the amounts to go back out weren't enough to meaningfully use on an RTIF project. So some of the jurisdictions were to get LPP instead to make that all work. And so this concept is taking those LPP monies, and instead of having the 5 cities do the LPP, one city, the city of Merced, has agreed in concept to take all of the LPP money, and then RSTP money goes to the others. And so basically then City of Merced has to do LPP anyway, so then they would just do a larger amount of LPP. And they have a very robust maintenance and rehabilitation program, including Measure V and the other SB1 money that everybody gets, that local streets and roads money. And so they can fit the LPP in and match it with the other funds. And then lastly, I just wanted to show the exchange part of it. So again, this was the regular distribution calculation, which I can go through, but that's a formula thing. And then this slide, attachment 3, it shows what the LPP amounts were from the termination. And on the left, it shows without an exchange, those are the RSTP amounts, and there's a column with the LPP amounts, and you sum those up, and that's RSTP plus LPP. And then with an exchange, the LPP jurisdictions, the Atwater, Dos Palos, Gustine, and Livingston instead get that added into their RSTP, and the city of Merced takes that much extra in LPP, so 1 for 1. Cities of Los Banos and Merced County are not part of the exchange, unaffected because they did not have an LPP amount. And then lastly, in order to provide assurance for a city of Merced about the California Transportation Commission part of it, so that's an action the CTC will take next week. So it is on their agenda for next Wednesday. And it's a staff recommended option. In other words, CTC staff is recommending that to CTC, so it's a routine thing. But just in case that does not happen, then this proposed, if the board approves this, but that CTC action does not happen, then we would go back to what we would do before this. So that's just a contingency that's included in the action to provide a safeguard to the city of Merced. And I know that was a lot, so if you have any questions about any aspect of that, I can answer that. But again, this is something that was worked out amongst the TRB for the benefit of all to get these funds out on good projects.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions for Matt? Mary Michael, does anybody have their hand?
Yes, Director Murphy.
Yes, Director Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And Matt, thank you for the explanation. City of Merced's in favor of this. We recognize it's not like, it's for the benefit of everyone else. We're willing to do that. The RSTP funds are sort of easier to spend and fewer strings and all those things. And same with the RTIF. Some of the smaller jurisdictions in particular can spend those, but we're happy to help other jurisdictions out. And I think this is one way for us to do that. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Director Murphy. Anybody else have their hand raised?
Not that I can see.
Okay, this is an action item. And I don't know if I would, Director Murphy, was that a motion?
Sure, I'll move to approve as proposed in the staff report.
Thank you. I do have a first.
Second by Creighton.
And we have a second. Is there further discussion on these items? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira, Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta,
Yes.
thank you, and Director Pereira.
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item number 15. Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County monthly update. This is an information item. Christine Chavez, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Chair and Directors. I hope you guys are well. I wanted to update you on the happenings with TJPA, and I wanted to share our ridership update. We continue to see a decrease in ridership. It's not an additional decrease, it's just a decrease over last year. We're hovering at about 1,500 passengers a day. We are still offering free fares on fixed route and paratransit, and we're monitoring that closely. You may have heard that the state has mandated face masks to be worn, so that will be beneficial for transit in the enforcement of that. So we will monitor closely and make service determinations with our contractor to see if we can safely continue to transport our passengers. So this is a graph of our ridership, and this is our ridership service hours and miles, with our ridership in blue, our miles in orange, and our hours in gray. This is a little easier to read. This is just previous fiscal year over the last.
Christine,
yeah.
It's not sharing on at least on my screen. I don't know about anybody else's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see what's going on.
We see your screen. Your PowerPoint is stuck on the. I thought my computer froze. Your PowerPoint is the front slide. It's not moving through your slides.
Oh, it says. Let me see. I'll try this again. Can you see it now?
Yeah, now we can.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. So this is just our historical ridership. Blue bar indicates the 18-19 fiscal year ridership, and the orange indicates the 19-20. As you can see, it was pretty gradually increasing and started decreasing just with the number of days in the calendar month, and then for the months of January and February, we were exceeding previous year ridership, and then COVID hit in March and April, May, and we have seen drastic decreases since then. Our paratransit ridership is also decreased. It's over 50%. We're starting to see an increase over the previous months, with more passengers able to go out and about, some day programs resuming, and other social services being available now. So That's good news for people that needed to go where they needed to go. And then when you look at our graph on ridership, you can see that we're still lower than previous years, and we are trending upward, which is good news for our ridership stats. And operations and maintenance are well underway. Our drivers are in their new uniforms. This is their safety vest that they're required to wear when they're behind the wheel. Their new uniforms with the gray kind of cross stitch, and they are required to wear masks while they are on duty. I know the question came up last month whether they have to wear them if nobody's on the bus. I think the answer was no. If nobody was on the bus, they can take them off to breathe a little easier, but now with the mandate, it could be something that is imposed on them all hours of service. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have or any comments.
Thank you, Christine. Does anybody have their hand raised?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Christine. We'll go ahead and move on to item number 16, approve the operating and capital proposed draft budget for year 2020-2021. This is an action item. Nab Bragi and Christine.
Thank you, Director Daniels. All right, thank you. So the summary of operating budget for fiscal year 2021 for TJPA, there has been no change to our budget since the last presentation to this board back in May. Here is an overview of the impact of TJPA's budget due to COVID-19. Increase in operational costs due to response measures for COVID-19. Many funding sources are impacted, resulting in loss of revenues. Those loss of revenues are offset by the CARES Act funding. These are the fundings that are impacted by COVID-19. As you can see, fare box and subsidized fare program for students is the most that's been most impacted. That's going to be most impacted by COVID-19. Also, then it's the state funding, which is STA and LTF, and then federal FTA 5307 and 5339. Just a draft summary for 2021, projected revenue loss due to COVID-19, replenished by CARES Act money funding, increase in overall budget by $737,000, which is a 4% increase. We are proposing there's no COLAs in this year's budget, maintaining the staff levels, no new positions. The priorities for TJPA staff is to include replacement of aging fleets and capital to address the lasting impacts of COVID-19. Here's our operating revenue broken down by funding source: federal, state, and local. CARES Act funding split between 2 fiscal years to help with long-term revenues. State and local funding covers the second half of the fiscal year's expenditures. Estimated reduction in state and local funding has been implemented. Further reduction is likely. Here's our operational expenditures. 62 or 61% of our operating expenses is due to operation and maintenance contracted by First Transit. So we are proposing an increase in our professional services of $204,000. That's due to electrification plan and microtransit. As Christine mentioned last month, the electrification plan is basically for plans and specs for the facility to house our electric fleet in the near future. We're also proposing an increase in maintenance equipment. As our fleet ages, it gets more expensive to repair those buses. We're also proposing an increase in the janitorial and office expense by $102,000. So janitorial and office expenses basically purchase of masks, sanitizers, and disinfectants for the bus. Here is our capital budget. It's broken down by project, the total cost, and how it will be funded to purchase those capital projects. The total capital projects is $7.5 million. We are looking to purchase 12 buses, upgrade our administrative building, upgrade our bus stops, and improve our shelters, implementing a new fare box collection system, also having a wash bay for vehicles to wash below the vehicles, and driver requirement improvements for the drivers. That concludes our budget. Does anybody have any questions? That's it. That concludes the budget.
Okay, thank you, Nav. Does anybody have their hands raised?
Director Silvera does.
Thank you. Director Silvera, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, thank you. If there are no further comments, I will make a motion to approve the operating and capital budget for fiscal year 2020/2021 as presented.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
By Aguilar.
Second by Aguilar. Is there further discussion on this item?
I see
Seeing
no
none?
hands raised.
Who does?
I said I see no hands raised.
Thank you. Let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton. I'm sorry,
Director Creighton had to step out.
Thank you. Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to item number 18, which, I'm sorry, item 17, authorized budget authority for year 2020-21, maintenance budget. This is an action item. This is Stacy Guzman and Christine Chavez.
Good afternoon. I will take the lead on this, and Stacy, you can help me out if I misspeak on anything. Excuse me. So this is a line item in the budget that you just approved, and we're seeking the executive director to have budget authority to approve these expenses. And so the expenses that would be approved under this line item would be major component replacement, so engines, transmissions, differentials, and all of the ancillary parts that it takes to keep our buses in a functional manner. So shock absorbers, bellows, I'm not sure what bellows are, but suspension bushings, oil filters, hoses, clamps, switches, etc. Tires, brakes. This excludes anything that is related to towing, so breakdown en route, and then anything that First Transit would be responsible for, which includes accident damages and accident repairs. This is a pretty standard operation amongst transit agencies. This is something that MCAG has been doing, but for transparency purposes, we wanted to bring it to the board for authority because there are some instances that the expense at hand exceeds the $30,000 limit or whatever it is that Stacy is limited to. So a new engine on a larger vehicle, so one of our 40-foot Gilligs, can cost upwards to $50,000. And so the budget authority for this would allow her to sign off on those budget items, and it would prevent us from having to bring each of those smaller line items to the board every month. It would save on a lot of staff time, but the intent is to bring back with the quarterly expenditures each of these maintenance items that we have paid out to First Transit, and the line detail as to what has been paid out. So that concludes my information if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Christine. Stacy, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Nope, Christine covered it. As she mentioned, this is the way that we're able, we're essentially just asking for the authority to expend the maintenance budget that was included in the budget that you just adopted, and it will just allow us to be able to keep our maintenance services efficient and moving along, and not having to bring a bunch of routine items to this board and delay the maintenance when those items do exceed the $30,000. So for example, an engine that goes out or needs to be replaced.
Very good. Is there any questions for anybody? Is there any hands raised?
Director Silvera has his hand raised.
Of course he does. Director Silvera, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there are no further questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Hold on, let me pull the exact wording up. Approve to authorize the executive director the budget authority for the maintenance equipment budget line item in the amount of $1.150 million for the fiscal year 2020-21.
Thank you. Can we have a motion? Is there a second?
Second by Nagy.
Okay, I got Pereira first. Pat, you gotta be a little quicker.
So I was the second.
Yes. So I have a first and a second. Are there further discussions about this item? If not, let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag. I'm sorry, Director Hoag,
Yes, I'm here. Yes,
Director Murphy.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes for Murphy.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Now we'll on to item number 18, approve the memorandum of understanding between Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County and Merced College for student transportation services. This is an action item, and it looks like Mary Michael Rawlings has this. You're gonna have double duty on this one.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As you probably remember, back in December, your board took action to approve the first MOU with the college to initiate a pilot program similar to that we have with the UC students, where Merced College students would simply show their ID and be able to ride any of our fixed route systems for free. They did this by self-imposing an additional fee upon registration of $9.95. We started that pilot back in January. We had really great ridership through March, almost 23,000 rides from those college students in that time. When the COVID pandemic hit and they transitioned to distance learning and we stopped collecting fares, that pilot took a different turn than we had anticipated. The initial thought behind this was we would run the pilot through the summer of this year, and then during this learn how to do this as we enter into a more long-term agreement. And because of the pandemic and the suspension of fares and the fact that we stopped collecting the data and the kids weren't on campus physically, both the college and the bus thought it would be better to extend the pilot for an entire academic year, because we're not really sure what the world's going to look like in the coming 12 months. And that will allow us more time to collect data for the college to figure out operationally different logistics on their end for fee collections. So what we did is we have the MOU before you today for your consideration. It's very similar to the first MOU that was approved. The two main changes are that we added some language that would provide for us to only to collect money from the college as we are collecting fares. So because we have suspended fares currently, we're going to prorate the college for the second installment under the current agreement, because obviously that's not right if they're not, if the students aren't writing and we're not collecting fares, that we wouldn't collect any additional money from the college. The second change we made in the MOU is we changed the payment structure to be based on real-time census of registration, whereas previously it was based on a flat number that was an average of a previous academic year of registration, and we just broke that up into two pieces. But we're going to do it based on real-time registration because the college obviously doesn't know what their registration is going to look like in the fall, and we want to make sure we have the most fair agreement in place as possible. I think I'll stop there and see if there are any questions from members of the board.
Thank you, Mary Michael. And you can check to see if there's any raised hands.
We do have one from Director Villalta.
Yes, Director Volta, you have the floor.
Mary Michael, are Las Vegas students, Merced College students, are they charged to $9.95 too? And does that route include around Las Vegas?
Yes, all college students, no matter what campus they attend, are charged the same fee, and they can ride any route on the fixed route anywhere in the county.
Wow, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised at this time.
Okay, this is an action item, so I will be looking for a motion and a second.
Villalta, motion to approve.
Ferrera, second. Take Nagy.
I think Nagy won that one. So we have Villalta with the motion and Nagy with a second. Are there further discussions on this item?
Chairman McDaniels?
Yes, sir.
You want us to raise our hands with emotions too, or just call out?
I think the call out on the motions would be fine, but if we have a discussion, I'd prefer a raised hand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar? Director Aguilar? Director Espinoza?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Murphy?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Yes.
Director Pereira?
Yes.
Director Silvera?
Yes.
Director Villalta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item 19, authorized contract for remix planning and scheduling tool. This is an action item. Christine Chavez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So this item before you is extending or entering into a new 3-year agreement with Remix. They're a web-based route planning and scheduling tool software. Sorry, I heard something weird. The software will allow us to refine data to be compatible with our automatic vehicle location software. It also allows us to pull data from that and put it into GTFS format, which is a Google Transit feed specification, which is public facing. It helps with trip planning and trip planning going to Google and using that bus layer that is available. It's also very useful for public meeting route change simulations with the upcoming short range transit plan. This software will be great for public presentations. It has been useful in the past for demonstrating unmet needs and what that would look like in real actual dollars if we add, an extra route that goes out another quarter mile or so. So this is a software that we've had since 2017, and it is compatible with Synchromatics. And until we rebid our AVL software, we recommend that we move forward with Remix to help us get the software functional, or to continue to keep it functional. And it also helps with driver runs and bids, run cuts and bids. So the amount we're requesting is $46,500 per year for 3 years, in an amount not to exceed $139,000 by $39,500
Thank you, Christine. Mary Michael, do we have any hands raised?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, I'm looking for an action.
Move to approve by Nagy.
Nagy has the first. Is there a second?
Silvera, second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there further discussion or any questions? Seeing none, I call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Creighton, Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Now we'll move into the segment of the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority. Item number 20, the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority monthly update. This is an information item. Eric Zetz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, board members. So we have an update for you for the May tonnage reports. The May tonnage reports, if you remember last month when I came to this board, we were showing a 30% decline in tonnages from the month of 2020 to the month of 2019. At that time, that would have been for April. So now we're looking at May. And for May, we're looking at a 22% decline. So tonnages have started to level out a little bit. We are seeing more tonnages coming over to Billy Wright landfill at this point for the months showing declines than we are showing at Highway 59. But it is good to see the 30% go to a 22%. One of the things that the authority is working on right now is we have had a gas exceedance. Technically, your perimeter landfill gas wells cannot be over 5% in volume in methane. And so gas well 45 has been one that we have, and the MMW stands for methane monitoring well, but we have been trying to resolve for some time. And so we have been in a period of trying to submit different tactics for resolving this methane exceedance. And we just recently this month, or actually May 27th, we received response from the local enforcement agency approving our submittal of tasks to help remedy this well 45. And so you see the 4 tasks there listed in bullets 2 through 5. We're going to drill some geoprobes that are about 1,000 feet, or I'm sorry, 500 feet north and south of 45 and see if we have any better readings there. If we do not, the reason why this is before you today is there is a possibility that if we cannot get this gas well under check, we will then have to expand out easterly of the Highway 59 boundary. We do have an extension through May 1st of 2021 to remedy that. And so we are on plan to hopefully get this resolved. Highway 59 Project 6B1, I have good news with this cell. We were given news just this last week that we can place trash in the cell now. This cell is something that's going to buy us some time for the valley fill. When we are able to put material into that cell, this cell will help us with that effort. And there's a picture for you to see at the Highway 59, that completed cell. So we're very excited about that. Highway 59 scale lane project, a notice to proceed was issued on June 15th this month for the project. The project is scheduled to be completed by October 16th. There is going to be a traffic control plan and we will be making use of the old gate for an entrance for the contractor. I'll show you that, and there are some landscape improvements. So this is the plan for the Highway 59 scale edition. This scale edition is for the exiting scale, which we will be installing. You'll see it there highlighted in yellow. And so we're adding a second exit scale. And so the highly gray shaded area there is going to be additional roadway space there that has to be put in where there is currently landscape. Here you have the, and I apologize, this should be a vertical picture. You're looking at it sideways, but it gives you a whole layout of the landfill at 59, and you'll see the traffic control plan that we've got for the contractor. So we're making use of the contractor to come in both on weekends, off hours, and as early as possible to help accommodate the traffic that does come into the site. This is the existing site. You can see on the scale the south area there where the trees and the landscape material is going to be. That will be where the additional lane will go into, and then the additional scale will go where the existing lane is now. And then we're going all the way back to the tire wash as far as road improvement. So you'll see the trees are there. The plans call for roadway all the way back to the tire wash. So this will help us with the traffic that is exiting the landfill, trying to get them out quicker. And then here's a picture of the landscape maintenance that we'll be doing there. That's the landscape that'll be removed there for that additional lane. All right, so now we will talk about our Billy Wright scale lane project. The Billy Wright scale, currently right now we're reviewing plans and specs, soil reports and electrical. We anticipate an RFP to be issued in mid to late July. This is one of the things we are looking at. You do have before you, I believe it's item 26, which is the Billy Wright anaerobic digester. You know, one of the things we did look at, whether or not this digester goes forward, is the need for power for the site. And so what you have there is 2 alternative locations that we've had just preliminary discussions, but we are assessing the power source that would help fund that. And we're really looking at a 220. So it's not going to be something too significant, but we want to make sure that we're prepared for it if it is approved. And this is a plan of, and this is preliminary, we haven't finalized this, but I wanted to get this to you all so you could see it. This is a plan to show the install of a second scale. And so in effect, what you're going to have is currently the scale that's on the south side of the plan is what you have today, and then the north side is where we would need to be. And so it would give us an entering scale and an exiting scale. Currently at Billy Wright, you have 1 scale, and both the entering and exiting traffic must share it. Community cleanups. So I wanted to bring to the board just a schedule of future community cleanups. We had some conversation at the last meeting as to whether or not the canceled community cleanups that were canceled due to COVID-19 were going to be restored in some fashion. We have checked with both the county and the cities, and there is not at this point a resetting of community cleanups to replace those that were canceled. And so the schedule that we have going forward is our next one here in September. We'll be at the Los Banos Fairgrounds, shepherded by the city. And then October 3rd, we'll be in Dos Palos. October 3rd, we'll also be in Dos Palos Y. The 17th of October, Atwater and McSwain. And then the 24th in Livingston and November 7th in Planada. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Does anybody have their hand raised?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, this was an information item, so we'll go ahead and move on to item number 21. Approve the operating capital and fleet proposed draft budget for fiscal year 2020-21. This is an action item. Nav Braggy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is Regional Waste Authority's budget for fiscal year 2021. Just to highlight some of the things, there has been no changes to our budget since the last presentation that was done to the board back in May. Just the budget summary revenues estimated at $12.9 million for 2021. That's a 12% decrease from fiscal year 1920. The operating expense is at $9.1 million. Capital projects at 8.1 of the 8.1, $5.5 million are for new projects. We're maintaining a staff level at 42, no COLAs projected, and no new positions. Key expenditures for RWA is heavy equipment and fleet purchase of totaling of $1.5 million. Capital projects, Highway 59 East Buckler, as Eric mentioned, if we don't get that gas well made under control, we really need to have to purchase it, so we're setting money aside of $1.5 million. Billy Wright land purchase of $1.5 million, and for compliance for SB 1383, we're setting aside $4 million. Here is RWA's budget highlights. As I mentioned, $4 million is our revenue, $9 million are expenditures. We are paying down our debt and putting money for capital at 3.8, and our positive cash flow after all at the end is $19,000. Our fleet purchase, the beginning balance is 3.7. Purchase and rebuild of equipment of cost of 1.5 million, and our balance at the end of the fiscal year 2021 will be at $2.1 million. And our capital improvement project, currently our existing projects are $13 million. We're requesting $7.7 million for this fiscal year, totaling $21 million. Our fund has $27 million in there, and after all expenditures, we'll be at $6 million. That concludes the budget. Does anybody have any questions?
Are there any questions for Nav?
I see no hands raised.
Thank you. Then I will be looking for an action.
Mr. Chair, Silvera, motion to approve the 2020-2021 RWA budget.
Second by Nagy.
Okay. Is there any other discussions on this? Let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Very good. Now we'll move on to item number 22, reauthorize importation contracting. This is an action item. Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. So we are going to talk about the importation at the authority. We'll review the revenue goal, and staff will give you a recommendation. So the annual expense and debt service is shown here for the entire authority. And so for our annual expenses, as Nav has presented, we've got a $13.5 million annual expense just on labor, fleet, bond payment, post-closure responsibilities. Our debt service, you see on the right, is $46.7 million. That's a debt we've got to pay, and that is made up of the remnant of the 2007 bond, $17.6 million. That's a little over $2 million a year that we pay for that. Post-closure, a balance of $19.5 million, and then the Billy Wright post-closure of $9.6 million. So this debt service and these annual expenses are there that we're going to have to continue to pay for. The rate to all of the jurisdictions to which each jurisdiction pays has stayed the same since July 1 of 2013. And so the collection rate is, even in this budget this year, is staying at that rate. And so you see those there on the right. This here is what our importation today looks like through May 31 of 2020. And so I've got a list on the left of the contractors that have brought imported tons to our site. So as we're discussing importation, these are the individuals that are coming into our site. And this is through May 31. And I will tell you that COVID did impact these tonnages even as we got into the end of May. But here we're showing their revenues for an estimated tons of a little over 200,000. So our revenue goal is 13.5 million. We have an in-county tonnage and an out-of-county tonnage as the source of material and revenue. The in-county tonnage, the 235,000 tons that you see there per year, is an amount that is put together with an estimated 12% reduction in tonnages going into this next year. So we were, just about over 300,000 tons in this last year. We're expecting tonnages to go down, and we may have you know, the 12% may become 4% or 8%, or it could be 15 or 20%. We don't know. But if we were just to solely go off of the in-county tonnages of, and let's estimate right now today at 235,000 tons a year, to make up that $13.5 million, we would estimate that each of the jurisdictions would have to pay a tonnage that's approximately $57 a ton. And so that would be an increase from what they are already paying today. Now, if we look at the out-of-county tonnages, we as well will look at the 12% decline and apply that to what they have. Now, we expect that 222,000 tons that you saw through the end of May to also be greater by the month of June, but we're looking at a 200,000 ton going into the 2020 year, and we're estimating that approximately it'd be $40 a ton for the material that we would receive from the vendors outside of the county, bringing in an anticipated revenue of $8 million. So there are two scenarios. The top scenario is if we went with just the in-county jurisdictions to make up the revenue goal of $13.5 million based upon what we believe would be 235,000 tons coming from the in-county jurisdictions in 2020. Scenario 2 provides a little bit of padding if you do include the out-of-county tons, in the sense that if the out-of-county tons come in and we get the 200,000 tons from the out-of-county vendors through importation at the $40 or thereabouts a ton, and so that $8 million then is helped to keep what you see in county jurisdiction tons at $31 to $40 a ton, bringing in a $7 to $9 million revenue of the jurisdictions, together with hopefully an $8 million revenue from the importation out of county. So the recommendation that staff has before the board is to authorize the continued importation of MSW, which is municipal solid waste, to both the Regional Waste Authority disposal sites, that would be Highway 59 and Billy Wright, for a period of 36 months, which would extend through August 2023. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Do we have any hands raised?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, this is an action item. I will be looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and move to go with scenario 2 with importation added on there. I mean, it's part of that, so.
For a second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there further discussion on this motion? Let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Moving right along, we'll go to item number 23, which is the Billy Wright landfill expansion property purchase. This is an action item as well. Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow board members. Item 23 is an action item and comes before you as requested by the board directive to investigate properties suitable for potential future expansion of the Billy Wright landfill. At this time, staff has concluded work for the board directive activities and is seeking board action to purchase these properties if that is the so desire and interest of the board. As part of the research process, the Thomas Wilkins Company was retained and performed a current market value of the 4 adjoining parcels to the west of the Billy Wright disposal site. On May 13th, 2020, staff received the proposals from the Thomas Wilkins Company for the 4 parcels to the west of the Billy Wright disposal site, which is estimated to be approximately 200 acres. I will tell you that we got these appraisals on the heels of our last board meeting. I believe it was either on the day that we were meeting, so it's really been that quick. The appraisals determined that the current market value of the sum total of the 200-acre parcels to be $480,000. This action will allow staff to utilize the budgeted funds in order to make an offer to the property owners and to enter into negotiations on the subject parcels. If this action is approved and the negotiations with the property owners are successful, staff will then purchase the property without any additional board action, so long as the accepted offer is within the authorized budget. If, however, negotiations are unsuccessful, staff will use these same relevant services to prepare for the condemnation process that may require public notice and litigation action by the board at a future date. Staff is recommending the governing board authorize the executive director to retain relevant professional services and to enter into negotiations with the property owners for the purposes of purchasing parcel numbers 078200090, 078200036, 078200037, 078190005. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any hands raised?
Yes, one from Director Silvera.
Yes, Director Silvera, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Eric, thank you for your diligent work on this item. This item is of particular interest to all of my colleagues on the west side. This is, in my opinion, with the climate that we are in the state of California, I see a scenario where in the next few years, 5 to 10 years, they won't be allowing for landfills to expand. And so I think we need to get while the getting is good. And I appreciate the work that you've done. And I really do like the language there. I want to negotiate with these property owners, faithfully and with all good intentions. But I feel like the requested action puts us in a position that we're going to do the right thing. We're going to try to negotiate with them. But we have also given Stacy, the executive director, the ability to start, if that's not successful, to start getting us the proper people in place to take the next step if that's what has to be done. So if there are no other further comments, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve and authorize the executive director to retain the relevant professional services and into negotiations with the property owners for the purpose of purchasing the APNs that Eric just previously read.
Thank you, Mr. Silvera. Do we have a second?
Yes, Villalta. But Eric, so this motion takes us in any direction that we need to go, depending if it's successful, friendly negotiations or not. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
There is a process that if we go to a unsuccessful, if both parties can't agree, there's a process that entails that we've got to go through to satisfy the second phase, and what's before you today will approve us to initiate those conversations.
Okay, so either way, we're covered.
Correct.
Okay, I would gladly second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Is there further discussion on this item? Then we'll call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes, and my phone is going dead, so I'm going to go back to the computer.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
and Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Moving right along. Item number 24, authorize payment to the San Luis Water District in response to Prop 218 assessment ballots. This is an action item. Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry. Item 24 is an action item and comes before you to decide repayment options on the approved property assessment by the San Luis Water District. For those that don't know, the San Luis Water District provides us water in and around the Billy Wright landfill. Early this year, the San Luis Water District informed the public that due to the Water Infrastructure Improvements for the Nation Act of 2016, otherwise known as WIIN, that the San Luis Water District would be proposing a Central Valley Project, or CVP, contract conversion of water rates from 2-year interim renewal contracts to a repayment contract, or what's known as a perpetual contract. In order to establish the conversion to a repayment contract, the contract conversion must be executed prior to December of 2021. And the total Central Valley Project construction debt held by the Water District of approximately $36 million must be repaid prior to the conversion. In early April of 2020, the San Luis Water District issued property assessments and Prop 218 ballots to property owners. The property owners then voted on the new assessment for water to repay the Central Valley Project contract debt and to convert the United States Bureau of Reclamation contract to a repayment contract, or a perpetual contract. The ballots submitted overwhelmingly passed the conversion. 87% of the ballots approved, 13% of the ballots denied. Based on the ballots received, the conversion passed. The ballots offered 2 repayment options for the existing water bond debt for landowners to select, and that is what is before you today. Option 1 is a lump sum payment option of $93,795.98. Option 2 is one annual payment of $8,252.31, which would be spread over 20 consecutive years. In doing option 2, the total debt of what we would pay is $165,046.20. If no action is taken on the ballot, option 2 is the default option for the district and those property owners that are in the district. Staff is before you today recommending that the governing board authorize option 1 and issue a lump sum payment in the amount of $93,795.98 to the San Luis Water District. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any hands raised?
Yes, from Director Silvera.
Yes, Director Silvera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Eric, appreciate again the good work on this. And just to kind of put it in layman's terms, when they developed the Central Valley Project, everybody kind of that gets water off of that was responsible for a portion of it. The federal government paid for it, and they have to pay it back. And what this does is pays them off. It saves the San Luis Water District money in the long run because their water rates are cheaper, and their contract doesn't expire on the water. And it only makes sense to me. That's a $71,250.22 savings if we pay it in the one lump sum versus stretching it out over 20 years.
Correct. Thank you, Director Silvera. Thank you.
And so, Mr. Chair, if there are no further comments, I would make a motion to proceed with option 1, the lump sum payment to San Luis Water District.
So I have a motion on the floor. Are there any other comments regarding this? Seeing none, I will ask for a second.
Second.
Second. So we have 2 people speak at the same time. Who was the second?
Espinoza, he's good.
Okay. Espinoza is the second. Let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
I vote yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Moving right along to item number 25, authorized request for extension of agreement for transportation and processing of recyclable materials. This is an action item. Eric, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Chair McDaniel. Item 25 is an action item, as the chair has said, and comes before you to seek direction on whether or not to ask for an extension to agreement number 2015-100, which is for the transport and processing of recyclable materials from the Regional Waste Authority. The Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority executed this agreement with Republic Services, Inc. They were formerly known as the Browning Ferris Industries, or BFI, when the agreement was initially signed. And it was for the hauling and processing of recyclable materials from the authority to the Republic Services Newbie Island Material Recycling Facility for any and all of the jurisdictions that were willing to participate. At present, it is the City of Merced, the City of Los Banos, and the County of Merced that do participate. This agreement is set to expire on August 31 of 2020. The current agreement does allow for up to 5 one-year extensions to the agreement from the original date, extending it to, if we did all 5 one-year extensions, through to August 31 of 2025 upon mutual agreement. In March 2020, staff received several unsolicited bids from outside vendors, including Republic Services, for the hauling and processing of recyclable materials from Highway 59 and Billy Wright landfills. The unsolicited bids that staff received reflected potential costs in excess of $1 million from outside vendors, whereas the incumbent Republic Services, the bid was under $500,000. And these amounts were on 2019 tonnages, going forward into 2020. Staff then met with the 3 jurisdictions, the City of Merced, the City of Los Banos, and the County of Merced, where we disclosed that information to them, the potential for the costs going forward from both the outside vendors and the incumbent Republic Services. It was then concluded that from these discussions, that with the jurisdictions, that staff would seek direction to seek an extension with Republic Services before the board. Staff is supporting extending the current contract with Republic Services, and we're looking at extending it for an additional 2 years, which we feel is the best value for the jurisdictions. 2-year extension will allow staff the time to bring back to the board options when HF&H has completed their reviews and action plan analysis on SB 1383 with the jurisdictions. The new law that takes effect in January 1 of 2022 for 1383, this agreement will fall in line with those other materials that we would expect to receive at the authority. And so our hope is to be able to then use the garner of bidding all of those materials and getting a bigger bang for our buck, if you will, to the authority. Staff is recommending that the board give direction to the executive director to issue a letter to Republic Services requesting for a 2-year extension of the current agreement for the transport and processing of recyclable materials from the authority. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Eric. Is there any questions for Eric at this time?
We have one hand raised from Director Silvera.
Yes, Director Silvera, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Eric, it just is because I did speak with Eric yesterday just on a couple things on this particular item. It's basically what we're doing is exercising our right to do a 2-year extension on the contract. And then once we exercise our right, they have the ability to renegotiate with us some of the terms of that contract. Correct, Eric?
That is correct.
And we fully expect that a yes vote today to authorize an extension of this, we are fully expecting that that Republic will be coming back to us to renegotiate those rates that they sent us in 2018.
That is correct.
Okay, and then lastly, but not least, in the particular language of what they asked for, they did put on there that they're entitled to a 80% of the Bay Area CPI increase, annually adjusting the processing rate by 80% of the CPI increase. If in a 12-month rolling period, that CPI was negative, therefore their rate would go negative, that 80% of that CPI as well, correct?
Right. So it's 80% of the change from
The change, yes.
the change from year to year. But
Yes.
yes, you are correct.
Perfect. I just wanted to, those are all questions that I asked you. I just wanted my colleagues to hear. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And it's thank you, Director Silvera. It is a great, anytime you have a revenue sharing component of your agreement, it's a great bit to have. Your contractor HF&H had come to you all in June of 2019 and had said, you've got a good contract. Republic is asking for a rate increase. Just wait for this contract to end. And then at that time, see if they'll go with an extension under the current premise. And so that's what's before you is, do you want to extend your current contract with them? We already know by the unsolicited bids that they will return with exactly what Director Silvera had just said. They're going to return with a estimation of cost, but even that cost we will bring back to your board in July. So you'll see it.
Thank you, Eric. This is an action item. Are there any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, Director Villalta, you have the floor.
Yes, Eric, I remember when that came to us, it was like an increase of $130,000 or $140,000 for Los Banos and over $200,000 for the city of Merced. Is that what's going to happen here? I mean, because not everyone recycles. There's only a few entities that recycle. And so we're, if that goes awry, are we looking for a huge increase like we did a couple of years ago?
Right. So we did meet with the jurisdictions, and we had a dollar amount that showed that increase. So yes, there will be an increase to the jurisdictions for the material that's coming in, so long as we receive the same amount of material that we received in 2019. Now, the other part of this that is unknown is the commodity market. If the commodities, and for example, if right now we had in the past, because of the China sword, there were pallets of cardboard and aluminum that were just stationed on loading docks and were not being offloaded because China was returning those shipments for not being compliant with their contamination policies. And so now what we have with COVID is that there is not enough cardboard in the surrounding economy. And so now that commodity is beginning to increase. And so what we saw with the unsolicited bids is that the dollar amount that Republic had submitted to this board in June of 2019 through conversations with HF&H, the unsolicited bid that we got back from them this past, in 2020, just this past series of months, was less of a cost. The commodities had risen. So because we have the revenue sharing agreement in play with Republic, it's still going to be the least expensive option for all of the jurisdictions.
But what could that least expensive option, what are we looking at as an increase? Is there a possibility like Los Banos could go up over $100,000?
I can tell you that right now. Let me.
Well, and while you're looking for that, this is Stacy, Director Villalta. You know what this action is basically to formalize a request to extend the contract, which will actually mean a letter that's sent to Republic, and then Republic would reply with kind of what, because it's a mutual negotiation for the terms of the extension. So we would then have the formal kind of reply of what their terms would be when they respond to the letter we would send following this item. So that's just a process thing. I just want to clarify that, you know, you'll know exactly what those terms of the extension would be when this item would be brought to the board for action.
But again, this is only for cities that are, and parts of the county that are recycling. Is that correct?
Right. So it's only going to be for those that are participating in the service. That is correct. And what I would say, Director Villalta, is we're not certain what the dollar amount is going to be from Republic. The request before the board today is just to seek the extension. Next month we would have the numbers, but as we had looked at this, say for example, the city of Los Banos, it was going to be a cost that was going to be somewhere over $160,000
Yeah.
on the amount of material if it was used for 2019. But now, if we did not use Republic and we use, say, an outside vendor, then it's a cost that's over 300,000. So it's one of those where that's what we're looking at. And I would say to the board that I'm not prepared today, or at least I wasn't prepared to have conversations with everyone as to what this cost is going to be, because we have a feeling of what Republic's going to tell us, and if the board approves this today, tomorrow we will get on it to find out what they're going to submit, because other jurisdictions, or not, I'm sorry, not other jurisdictions, but other vendors that we were working with are already being told, listen, you're too expensive. You're gonna have to bring your numbers down. And really what it comes down to, it is the transportation cost that really kills these contracts. Everything, if you don't have a revenue sharing agreement participant, transportation costs hurt you. Now, the other side to that is also, if we don't have all of the jurisdictions also participating, then all of the material that we could be getting could help leverage those costs as we go forward. And so I think that this is the best case scenario for us now under the current structure that we're in. And when we get in 2 years, the hope is when we get the 1383 model together with this recycling model, we will then leverage all of those materials to make it as least impactful for all of the jurisdictions.
Yeah, but see, it was my understanding when HF&H did this, is that they said wait till the new contract. Now we're doing an extension to that contract where, again, the previous model was going to be that all the entities were going to be involved in the recycling. And now with this extension, it doesn't involve all the entities, and then it's going to involve just the people who are recycling. And that wasn't my understanding when HF&H did that. They said to wait, and then we would have everyone on board. But that's not what's happening now.
Yeah, Eric, if I could, this is Stacy. We were part of that process, Director Villalta, but one thing I want to make sure that is clear is that the cost that any city incurs is going to be, directly correlated to the amount of waste that city produces. So, or the material that the city produces. So, if there are 3 jurisdictions that are participating, their share of the cost is going to be completely tied to their share of material. So if additional cities are added and they begin to have produced material, they would then be paying, that overall number of material would increase, as they would be paying for their share of it. So, so I think that was an important part of the discussion, because whether or not Eric alluded to, if you have more participants, maybe, and that was the whole idea about doing a regional approach, is if you can lump people together, jurisdictions together, maybe you can get a better rate. And that could be true the more jurisdictions we're able to add, but the actual cost that any jurisdiction will incur will be based on the material that they produce. So adding more cities isn't dividing the same total by more people. It's actually adding to the total, and everyone's still paying the share that they produce. Just, it was the same that when there was a revenue sharing happening, it was based on that jurisdiction's material, and so that revenue went back to that jurisdiction. And in terms of everyone participating, Eric did mention with 1383, that requirement is still out there, but it's just not now. And so this would allow us to be able, this extension, I think when Eric was talking to the price, why this extension is the way that staff is recommending we move forward is because that rate that is going to determine each jurisdiction's price based on their material appears to be lower staying with Republic than if we look at some of the other vendors that are providing it. So I don't know if that helps, but the idea of adding more jurisdictions to the blue bin recycling program, they'll just be paying for what they produce, just as what the city of Los Banos pays for the material that they produce.
No, I understand that completely. It's just that wasn't my understanding 2 years ago. And the understanding 2 years ago was that we weren't going to extend the contract, and now Republic is getting what they wanted because they want to extend the contract for 2 years. And I thought we were going to have a new contract where all of us were going to be involved in the recycling, and now we're putting that off 2 additional years. And that wasn't my understanding. And I'd like to know the numbers of what actually Los Banos is going to pay and what the other entities are going to pay before we approve a 2-year extension. And is it, if we approve this 2-year extension, are we stuck, or do we wait about the? Can we hear the numbers first before we decide?
Right. So thank you, Director Villalta. If I could just jump in here, I think that. Yes, the answer to your question, yes, you will have the opportunity to approve the numbers. So we plan to, the contract says if you'd like to extend, you have to issue a formal letter to request that. We're asking the board to authorize the executive director to do that. Once we issue that letter, if Republic, when they come back with their estimates of what those costs are, up to this point, it's fluff. It's estimated, it's unsolicited. I will tell you that the Republic came back in March of last year, and they wanted a rate increase after the China sword, and so that's what happened. The rates that they had submitted, that HF&H had presented strictly solely on just recycling, was presented then at that time to the board of what those costs would be. And so this is less than what that was at that time. So we will come back in July to offer to you an item that says what this is going to cost, and we can get you what the exact cost will be. Now, the jurisdiction meetings that we held, we did give the City of Los Banos staff an email with the estimated cost based upon the unsolicited bid, and we used the 2019 numbers, and that's the 160,000. That's the number I'm using for you today. And so I will find that correspondence, and I'll make sure that gets sent back out. But again, it's if we were advised by Rob Hilton at HF&H that here's the deal, because we have a revenue sharing reimbursement agreement for each of the jurisdictions on the material that they bring to us, the recyclable material that they bring to us. Nobody else was going to offer that. Only Republic is offering that. Rob Hilton had told us that if you go out with an RFP, you may not get any vendors, or you may get vendors that just charge you $1 million or $1.5 million or $2 million to do the service. Whereas if you unsolicit it and you just tell people you're thinking and you want to see what they can offer, and this came up by way of the Los Banos RFP. Vendors actually contacted the authority to find out how they could fit into the authority if they got the RFP for Los Banos. And in those conversations is how we were able to say, well, listen, we have a contract that's coming up. Would you be interested in maybe just giving us some information of what you can provide? And that's how we started this. So to Director Villalta, you are absolutely correct that it would be best if we had both the recycling materials, the AB 939 material, together with the AB 1826 and SB 1383 material all at the same time. The reason why the 2-year is so that we can try to line up the authority's waste streams or recyclable streams and organic food waste stream together to match the January 1 of 2022 SB 1383 law. It is at that time that we would hope then when we go to renegotiate everything at that time, that we then have a greater participation by all involved for the materials that we're going to be receiving and collecting. These material recycling facilities are not cheap. So I would just say to you right now, it is just to follow the terms of the contract that allow for the opportunity for an extension to bring back to the board as to what that extension and what its cost is going to look like.
So at that time, we'd approve the extension? This is not an approval of the extension?
Correct. This is an approval of the request to seek an extension.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Silvera.
Thank you, Director Villalta. Yeah, it's so maybe if I'm understanding it correctly, is that this is to as part of the original contract, there is a 2-year extension that is part of that, that you can offer a 2-year extension. All we're authorizing today is to trigger that 2-year extension. And in a perfect world, it would be at the current rates that are in the current contract that they have. But as part of that extension, at that time, they have the ability to come in and renegotiate that contract. So if we approve this today, we are approving to have that conversation. We're expressing that we're interested in the option of going 2 more years, but then a conversation has to be brought back to us, or a discussion and action onto what that new negotiation looks like. Does that sum it up?
Yeah. Right, and exactly. And so the requested action is that if the contractor were to take the existing same terms that you have under your current contract model, then that extension agreement would come back to you in July with, that extension. Either way, we're coming in July. We already know from the unsolicited bids that it will not be on the same terms and conditions. They have already told us that there are 3 commodities that they are going to change, and that is the discussion we had with the individual jurisdictions, is to say these are costs that you're going to have to prepare for. So we expect that, and that's why we know that we will be back before you in July, just as Director Silvera has said.
So this is just a letter of interest then?
This is you could say that, absolutely. It's to submit a letter in keeping with the contract. The authority can seek to extend the contract up to 1 years. And we are going to then, based upon your action today, we're going to tell the contractor that the board has authorized us to seek an extension to extend the contract under the same terms and conditions for 2 years. We expect, and staff is telling you, we expect, based upon the unsolicited bids, that they are not going to return under the same terms and conditions, but rather are going to want to negotiate. And so that's why I say that when we send that letter to them, we will return in July.
So there is a separate action in July to approve the 2-year extension. Right now, we're not approving the 2-year extension. We're approving of a letter of interest to seek out information, and then in July, we will actually approve this if we do.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm just trying to be exacting language here with this thing, because that's going to give me a month, because what I would like is, I would like to know what it would cost us if we didn't recycle and just put that stuff on the ground for 2 years. How much is that going to cost us? What's the offset?
The action today is not in any way committing to the extension. It is just a contract formality that we have to issue in writing a request to extend the contract, and because the terms then are mutually agreed upon, it's basically to initiate negotiations of what contract terms would look like with an extension.
Okay, but we have to bring back
that contract would come back to the board, and those terms come back to the board for execution.
And that would be the time of the contract for the 2-year agreement that would be approved or not approved.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that exactly, Mr. Silvera, is that the way you're understanding it?
That's the way we're all understanding it, Mr. Villalta.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's in the record, and all right.
And it's in the packet.
Well, I'm stating this for the record. I don't care about the packet. So anyway, so then I would like an offset to see what it would cost to put that in the ground, as opposed to recycling too.
I would just comment that we have been made aware this last week or the week before that Cal Recycle is going to be conducting their state audits of the individual jurisdictions, and they're going after program implementation. And so, not to get into the HF&H discussion with the jurisdictions, but program implementation for the individual jurisdictions is really going to be the focal point going forward.
Okay, but can I have the offset too?
Yeah, I don't think that the state will allow that. Now, I think if your individual council pursued something, there might be I don't want to guess here, but at this point, I think the program implementation is your best bet. Otherwise, I think that the state can levy hefty fines towards non-compliance.
Okay, I'm all about fairness. You know that. So
Sure.
just
Sure.
want to make sure that, that's what it is. Because if we're going to be doing recycling, we should be doing recycling. So, so with that, okay, I'm okay with just a letter of interest, Eric, if that's the way you're describing it, and then the final contract will come back to us in July. Is that correct? If we're going to.
That's correct.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so does everybody understand that now? So this is
Move
an
to
action
approve
item.
by Nagy.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor,
Second, Silvera.
and I have a second. Let's call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag, Director Hoag, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Nagy,
Yes.
Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving right along.
Mr. Chair?
Item number 26. Billy Wright anaerobic digester. This is information only. Eric, you've got the floor.
Okay, thank you. Item 26 is a informational item. Comes before you to seek direction on whether or not to pursue an anaerobic digester for the Billy Wright disposal site. The authority staff was notified in early February 2020 that the anaerobic digester located at the Monterey Regional Waste Management Authority was available for lease and was presently not being used at their current site due to the limited capacity of the digester and the increased capacity of the facility in Monterey. The owner of the anaerobic digester is a company called Zero Waste Energy, LLC. The processing capacity of the anaerobic digester that we are looking at is about 8,000 tons of mixed organic food material and green waste each year. The less contamination, the more mixed green organic material the anaerobic digester can process. Staff believes the anaerobic digester would be a valuable solution towards allowing the West Side jurisdictions to deliver mixed organic materials, green waste and food waste material, to the Billy Wright disposal site or landfill. This would enable compliance for the surrounding jurisdictions to the following state legislations. Assembly Bill 341, which mandates a recycling program. Assembly Bill 1826, mandatory organic recycling. And Senate Bill 1383, which is mandatory food waste diversion. Assembly Bill 1826 and Senate Bill 1383 are the two bills that require food waste diversion mandates upon the jurisdictions. At present, the authority does not have a permit to allow for food waste on site at either of the disposal sites it owns, both Billy Wright and Highway 59. This item is for informational purposes only. Staff is seeking direction from the board on whether or not to pursue contract negotiations, which we would bring back at a later board meeting, contract negotiations with Zero Waste Energy to bring their anaerobic digester currently in Marina, California, and move it to the Billy Wright disposal site. We would bring back, if we're able to look at what the pro forma and the contract would be, we would bring back those financial terms at a later date. What staff's looking for is information and direction on whether or not to pursue this. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any hands raised?
Yes, Director Villalta has his hand raised.
Sure, Director Villalta, you have the floor.
Eric, can we make money off of this from other entities outside of Merced County?
Yes, yeah. Right now, if we were to look at the 2019 tons, I believe that We're just under 3,000 tons from the surrounding districts of food waste material that they would have to divert. So there's 5,000 tons of capacity that's available there. So yes, absolutely. And I will remind folks that HF&H on the 1383 conversations had been advising the jurisdictions that there's no way you can get a anaerobic digester to accept food waste, commingled food waste and green waste material for anything less than $100 a ton. And we're being told that we can get this for somewhere near half of that cost. And so we hope to continue these conversations, bring it back to you. And I believe, yes, Director Villalta, this will be a big win for the West Side jurisdictions.
So would your direction be pursue pursue acquiring the anaerobic digester? Would that be the direction you're looking for?
Absolutely. What I'm looking is to we're going to get a hold, if the board approves today, us to continue this work. We're going to go forward now, and let me back up. If the board said they didn't want an anaerobic digester at this meeting, we'll stop conversations. We will cease having these conversations and let this go. But if it is the board's desire that we continue, we will seek what it's going to, well, and I will tell you, without it being formalized, we've been told that this is going to be about $750,000 to transport all of their, and it's in your staff report, you'll see the actual site of what the digester looks like. And if we can get that to the Billy Wright landfill, $750,000 to get this thing over, and then we can get a lease agreement as to a low tip fee, less than $100 a ton. This is going to be a win-win for anybody that uses that site. What it will do is, and I will tell you, we're already having conversations with HF&H where we're letting them know on their 1383 analysis that, hey, listen, we've come up with this. If the board chooses to exercise movement on this, this really shapes us in a different way. We didn't expect to have an opportunity for a digester to be at either of our sites, let alone this size and this makeup. So, so to answer your question, yes, this can be a moneymaker.
Okay, well, I would make the motion then for the acquisition of the anaerobic digester to be to move to the Billy Wright site.
Yeah, this is information only. This is an action item, but we can give direction.
Direction?
Direction received. Thank you.
Okay.
I concur with that direction. This is Silvera.
I do too. Can we run our recyclables through this anaerobic digester?
You cannot. It's gonna be.
I know. I'm just being facetious.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, you've got direction. Let's move on to item number 27. Act on property damage claim. Garland Daniel, this is an action item.
Yeah, good afternoon. So I'm bringing you a claim from a member of the public who was purchasing fill dirt at the Highway 59 landfill back in April, whose vehicle truck tailgate was dented due to the wheelbarrow that belonged to the claimant that he pulled out of his truck prior to having his truck filled with dirt, and he placed it underneath the tailgate, and when the weight of the truck moved down, it dented his truck. We are asking that you decline this claim because the staff had no handling of the personal property. They had nothing to do with the placement of his wheelbarrow where it was, and were it not for that, his vehicle would not have been damaged. So we are asking for the board to decline the claim.
Okay, thank you. This is an action item. Christina, appreciate you presenting that. Sure. Are there any questions or further discussions on this item?
Director Silvera has his hand raised.
Okay, Mr. Silvera.
First off, Mr. Chair, I want to thank Christina. I appreciate the level of detail that was put into this report. That I would say that sometimes in the past that wasn't always the case. It was a very clear explanation and was able to follow along easily. And with that, I will make a motion to deny the claim for damages for Garland Daniel.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second by Nagy.
I have a second. Is there further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Director Aguilar? Director Aguilar?
He had to step out, sorry.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag, Director Murphy,
Yes.
Sorry,
Director Nash.
Joy, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
going back to April Hoag, this is Emily Hayden. I'm texting with her, her microphone doesn't work. She votes yes on this item and on the previous item.
Thank you. Director Pereira,
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Yes.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Moving right along, we'll go to item number 28, the Executive Director's Report. This is information only. Stacy Guzman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. I'll lead by saying I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your year of service as the chairman of the board and helping us navigate the transition to these virtual meetings and all of this during this unprecedented time. So I appreciate your accessibility and flexibility as we work through a number of troubleshooting issues moving to virtual environment. And we just really appreciate all of the time and effort that went into it. And the second is, I'll just mention that as I've been trying to share some photos, our front lobby is still under construction. They're making progress around schedule. Actually, I think last report I had is we're a little ahead on schedule, but the target date for that completion is July 22nd. So if ever you're in the neighborhood, you can peek through the window and you can already see where everything's going to be in place. So we're excited about that project. And with that, unless there's any other questions, that completes my report.
Thank you, Stacy. Does anybody have their hands raised with any questions for the director's report? Okay, seeing none, then
I
we'll
don't
go ahead
see
and go
any hands.
to item number 29, which is the director's report. I will go down to Scott. Director Villalta, do you have any report?
Have a safe 4th of July.
Director Silvera, do you have a report?
I'll just encourage everybody to read their packets. Thank you.
Director Pereira, do you have a report?
No, sir.
Director Nagy?
Nothing to report, sir.
Thank you. Director Murphy?
Nothing from me.
Director Hoag?
This is Emily Hayden for Director Hoag. She does not have a report.
Okay. Director Espinoza?
Happy 4th of July. That's it. Thank you.
Director Aguilar, he had to step away. Director Creighton had to step away. And for myself, thank you for this past year. It's been definitely very interesting. I've enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to stepping down and handing the gavel to somebody else. At this time, this concludes the meeting. Meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Chair.
Thanks.
Great job.
Good job, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.